Thanks for joining us. I'm Nancy Furness, and this is We've Got Issues. Our interviews today are taking place on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of Coquitlam First Nation. We'd like to thank the Coquitlam people who continue to live on these lands and to care for the lands and the waters and all that lies above and below. We'd also like to thank Coquitlam City Centre Library for providing us space to do these interviews. And today I'm joined by Ben Perry, who is a longtime community advocate. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
We want to talk today a little bit about the unhoused situation in Coquitlam and the Tri-Cities. We have a facility at 3030 Gordon, which plays a dual role, right? There's 30 units of emergency shelter where people have a room and they get 3 meals a day, and then 30 units of more supported housing where people have their own bathroom and kitchen. And that has been full to capacity since it opened. Mm-hmm. And there has since been an encampment that has sort of cropped up next door to the facility. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that encampment is like, what the living conditions are like there?
I've been going there regularly for the past maybe year or so, and it's a row of tents. There's the population has some rotation and change. It's a mixture of men and women. Okay. They're a community.
How many people generally are there?
I would say it's fluctuated between like 40 and 20, so I think about 30 you could say, yeah.
So an average of about 30 people are residing in tents?
Yep, often 2 per tent, sometimes more or less, yeah.
What have you learned about the encampment from the people who reside there? I know you're there on a regular basis, and you've spoken to some of the folks that live there. What have you learned about the encampment?
I mean, for a lot of the residents, it's their community. Many of them want to live in homes, like not just tents, but like buildings.
Like real stable homes.
And they're not for various reasons, like partly that there's a lack of homes for them. They have social relations, they're looking out for each other. They're, giving each other things and things like that.
So is there a sense of community there?
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of community. I think they know each other. I see them walk by, knock on each other's tent, hey, do you want this, kind of thing. So I think there's definitely, they're neighbors.
Right, so they know each other, they know each other's names, they know maybe if somebody isn't there who should be there.
Yes, what happened to so-and-so, we hear that kind of stuff, and
Okay, so now increasingly in that encampment, like many encampments, there's concerns about safety and concerns about cleanliness. And there's no running water, there's no sanitation facilities, there's no electricity. And the city of Coquitlam does not provide those services to the encampment, but they have done some cleanup on a sort of ongoing basis. And recently there was a notice issued saying that the tents would need to be packaged up and belongings would need to be packaged up, and a deep clean was going to be done in that area. Can you tell us more about that? What was that all about?
Yeah, so I've been going down there on every other Sunday with the group Food Not Bombs to provide food and support for the people that don't have homes. And so we showed up about 2 weeks ago, I think, just over 2 weeks ago, and there was a notice posted on the fence of the empty lot 3020 Gordon, and it was a notice of change of bylaw enforcement. So the city said that they were going to start enforcing parts of the bylaw that don't allow people to have tents or whatever, I think. And so their enforcement model was, it said, as of this particular date, I think it was June 26th, maybe.
There wasn't much notice
No,
given?
I think it went up a week before the change in enforcement. And the enforcement model, it said tents will have to be disassembled at 8 a.m. and may not be reassembled till 9 p.m.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's...
And personal belongings all have to be packaged up as well?
Yeah, I think that was also, it mentioned something about personal belongings. So it was a total, and the wording of it was, I mean, you can look up the notice. I'm sure it's published in the papers. I've got a photo of it. It was from this, it was pretty much, to paraphrase, from this day forward, you can't have a tent here between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Which, I mean, is not, that's effectively, you just can't have a tent here because it's not practical for people to...
Exactly,
yeah.
how practical is to expect that people will be packed up and out of there by 8 a.m. and not come back until 9 p.m. Can you talk a little bit about what the consequences of that action would mean to the people that are residing in those tents right now? What would that do to that sense of community that they've built?
Yeah, so I don't think that anyone could really persist in living there. It would totally wipe out the community.
Where would they go during the day?
Right, and where would their stuff go?
Yeah.
But I mean, more importantly, I think that when I looked at what people had, and I just think about the challenge of waking up every day. You know, when you're homeless, you're also, your health is not great. A lot of the people have disabilities. Mm-hmm. To wake up in time to pack up by 8 a.m.
In the pouring rain?
Sure, yeah. It's just not possible.
Right.
And you know, some of the residents, they brought up just the challenges that would mean. It would push them out into the margins and isolate them.
So where would they go?
I mean, I spent some time walking the Coquitlam River Trail over the years. I've seen tents, you know, single lone tents in the forest. If people have tents, you know, if their tents aren't there, people are sleeping by businesses. When they're in an encampment and it's sort of stable bylaw and police get used to it, then they sort of have some stability. But if they're moving around, what people have told me is, you know, they'll go and sleep somewhere at a business and they might get woken up in the middle of the night and told to move on, right? So disrupting their sleep and things like that.
And we all know what it's like not to get a good sleep a few nights in a row and you're cold at night and it wears you down rapidly.
Yes.
Also, I think you had mentioned something about they check on each other, they know if each other is there or not. You know, if you lose that network, nobody knows where you are or what sort of state you're in. You know, there's mental health, there's physical health, there's addictions, there's so many challenges already. It just seems to me that this vastly increases their vulnerability by, you know, kind of dispersing that community and sending people out on their own.
You've hit the exactly on the nose. I'm just thinking when people are uncomfortable about marginalized people, homeless people, it's often fear for safety for people, you know, your average citizen.
You mean for people walking by saying, I feel uncomfortable?
I feel, yeah. But we should be concerned about these people's safety. They're at the biggest risk.
Who's the most vulnerable?
Yeah. And they're, when they're together in community, there's someone to look out for them, like you said. I talked to at least 2 women on the day when the enforcement started who said if they are out on their own, they're at risk for sexual assault.
Oh, wow.
And the 2 women I talked to, one of them told me that she had just been sexually assaulted, and another one, her mom had come to visit her and said she was also a survivor of sexual assault.
Yeah, it's, I don't even know where you start because already there's no sanitation, there's very little there to start with.
The closest washroom's like probably a 5-10 minute walk. Yeah.
And now we're saying you can't even have a place to put your tent down during the day.
Yeah.
So what would be the consequences if somebody said, I can't move? I just can't pack up my tent. And they left for the day or something and left their tent there. What do you think would happen?
Well, the change in bylaw enforcement, we should probably talk about what actually happened on the day. But the plan was to bring bylaw, fire, police, and outreach from housing agencies.
BC Housing and...
I think sort of contract agencies that work
Okay.
with BC Housing, which did happen. But they didn't actually follow the enforcement plan that they had on the bylaw.
So they were intending to take those tents down on that day and do a deep clean? And is that what the plan originally was?
There was some indication from our discussion with the city that that was the plan.
Okay.
The memo on bylaw enforcement was pretty clear that the tents would have to come down one way or another. I'm assuming that's why the police were there. They sent, there was, I believe, 8 police officers there or something.
And that in itself can be traumatizing to people that are already
Right.
not feeling,
Yes.
feeling vulnerable.
I mean, they sent very calm, respectful, mature police officers.
Okay, that's good.
Which was a good thing. So the actual day wasn't, from my perspective, it wasn't terrible.
Okay.
I should also say one of the things we did was we got a campaign. We got some public support. I shouldn't say we. I mean, just our community came together and.
And what did they do?
Well, I know that over 500 letters went to City Hall, like in emails, saying, let the tent stay. So
Okay.
I think public pressure is important, and there is a big, the public knows you can't just sweep this under the rug. There are people who may have harsh opinions about unhoused people, but I think most of the public knows, in their heart, you can't make this problem go away without giving them homes.
Well, and I think also there's a huge community of people who are supporting the folks at 3020 Gordon right now. So there are multiple groups going down there with food on a regular basis, with providing services, being there, watching that camp, and it's become kind of part of our community as well, watching out for them. So I think there is a significant portion of people who, are aware of what's going on and would be maybe pushing back a little bit on this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting situation. When these tents were coming down, and I believe they were supposed to be down by 8 a.m. every day and not come back until 9 p.m.,
Mm-hmm.
Is that realistic to expect that they could do that?
No, I mean, of course, that enforcement approach is never going to. It's not realistic.
It's not.
So, I mean, there's an intention to do something. I mean, the worst assumption, which I think is not unreasonable, is to just disperse it, right? If you can't have your tent up between 8 and 9 p.m., you're not going to stay there. So if they really intended to carry out, which they didn't end up carrying out, but if they intended to carry out their enforcement approach as written, then the result would have been the camp would have been dispersed. I should say, on the day of the dispersal, there was a lot of interesting stuff that came up. The manager of bylaw enforcement showed up on site at some point, and I pushed him on an important question about tents.
Okay.
Because I had talked to some residents, a common issue is their tents are just taken. And so I wanted to ask him about that.
When they're not there,
Right.
if they're not occupied?
Yeah, and so he did confirm that if the tent's unoccupied, then it'll be taken and thrown away. And I should say, on the day of that sweep, it wasn't just police, fire, bylaw, and housing agencies. They also had a private contractor, junk removal company there as well, to take people's belongings. Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't, I think on that day they were very careful not to just grab. At first they did grab an unattended tent belongings, put it in the truck.
Why do you think they didn't?
And then they put them back. So I think it was a fluid situation in terms of policy. I'm making wild guesses here, but I'm assuming people at City Hall were like, oh, there's people there observing with cameras, maybe.
Well, I think there
Yeah.
was media coverage,
Yeah.
right? And there was legal was alerted, media was alerted. So do you feel that that was played a role in them not taking the tents down at that time?
Yeah, so there was someone from Pivot Legal there, and I asked them about, did this public response, did this change what happened here today? And he said, absolutely.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
in his
Interesting.
opinion, this is the same model that happened in Vancouver and other cities for homeless sweeps. It comes out as like a change in enforcement. We're going to do it's not a
Right.
direct decampment.
It's not a black and white. It's
Yeah.
like, let's see how this goes. And interesting. So do you think, is there a way that we can deal with the safety and the cleanliness issues respectfully without dismantling everything and dispersing this community?
Well, I mean, I think there are lots of cities around the world and Lower Mainland dealing with this. If there are, there are probably legitimate safety concerns. One of them was a fire concern.
The propane tanks and wooden pallets and
Yeah.
things like that?
And actual fires, I think there have been. It's a very complicated situation. I mean, the ultimate solution here, of course, is building this level of housing. So supportive housing and shelter housing, that's where these people would go and be safer. And I mean, yeah.
So you had mentioned something called heath and hearth. Is that something that, can you explain what that is? And is that a model that would work here, do you think?
Yeah, so I'm not really an expert in this area, but from what I've heard, the province has resources in programs, and one of the programs is, two of the programs are heath and hearth. I think it's hearth, signifies like your home, where your
Right.
hearth is, right? So that's one where they'll build temporary shelters for up to 3 years, I think it is. And this is really important because this has been one of the political sticking points, is wraparound services.
Right.
So heath, I think, is the promise of the wraparound services, which goes to like, let's prevent public health issues, fires, and other kinds of things that can happen.
And also mental health services and
Right.
things like that, access to treatment and...
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And I think that's a lot of, some of what's been missing too.
And I know City of Coquitlam is sort of getting the blame for this, but is it all on their shoulders, or should we also be looking to Port Coquitlam and Port Moody to step up and take some of this on as well?
Well, in my humble opinion, I should also say we all know, like, homelessness is a regional issue, really underlined with my being down there talking to people at 3020 Gordon. They're moving around. So they're coming and going a little bit to different municipalities. So I think it needs to be solved regionally. We need to have I don't know what the right forum is for discussing it. Coquitlam has that shelter at 3030 Gordon. It used to have more shelter space near Millardville, Sure Stay Hotel.
Right.
That fell through. Port Coquitlam, I've just done a little bit of digging. There's a development application, I believe, for a 70-bed supported housing space on Kelly Avenue. That has yet to...
That'll be a few years down the road, I guess.
If it gets approved.
If it gets approved.
I mean, we should talk about Port Moody that just recently denied an application for supported housing space. I think similar in size to Gordon Avenue, right beside the police station. And from what I've heard, it was supposed to be for men. And
Is there a reason attached to that?
well, I did get to talk to a city councillor from Port Moody about it, and I think that she said there were a number of issues. So it's a little complicated. One of the issues is just not being able to negotiate the terms. It was, the province said, this is the spot, BC Housing in the province, build it here, or or else. We don't have a mandate yet, right? Like, if you think about like the next layer of housing up, like middle class housing, the province had quotas 5 years back, and then they moved into this zoning mandate of like density, fourplex on every lot. We don't have a mandate yet for supported housing, but maybe it's time.
It's time, I think.
Yeah, but also maybe a dialogue. Yes. I know in Port Moody that dialogue is still going, but they've shut down the one that was. They voted against it.
Well, and it's become a little bit of a political football. Like the province is saying, you give us the land, we'll build the facility, and the cities are saying, you know what? Look at Coquitlam. We built the facility, we didn't get the wraparound services that we were promised. So there's maybe a conversation that really needs to happen between municipal and provincial level governments so that they both step up.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe the city can step up. I mean,
the city can,
look at Chilliwack, right?
Tell us about Chilliwack.
Well, I don't know that much about Chilliwack, but my understanding is they're very transparent about what they have in terms of housing for this level of housing, this supported and shelter housing, and it's much more than Coquitlam. I think it's 100 or 200. I can't remember the number. So.
And this is municipal that has stepped up to do this?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but I know that in Coquitlam, 3030 Gordon didn't happen just municipally. The municipality of Coquitlam was a partner in that, which was a good thing.
Provincial and municipal, yeah.
Right now, they don't want to do more. That's a really great place too, 3030 Gordon. It's
doing a lot of valuable work.
Yeah, and it's not right by other homes and stuff.
Residential neighborhood, sort of,
So it contains what, some of the challenges that come up with some of the residents are trouble. Some of them are very easygoing, sweet people who wouldn't hurt anyone, and So I don't know. I think if we look at Chilliwack, they stepped up. Why can't Coquitlam, Port Moody? Things are in the works. Maybe Port Moody can renegotiate with the province, but maybe the province needs to set up a fair framework. Maybe we need. I was trying to find out how many shelter beds, how many supportive housing beds per municipality in Metro Vancouver. I wanted to see what's the ratio to the population.
Compare,
that data is not really readily available.
Okay.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we do a report card to start? That's always a good start in a regional strategy.
Just
Who's
a very
pulling their weight?
objective. Look at what we've got, what we need.
Yes.
That sounds like at least a place to start, because as you say, the transparency isn't always there, and the need certainly is, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a long ways to go yet.
Yes.
So Ben, if people want to get involved and to show their support, that more resources are needed, more supportive housing is needed, what should they do? What would you recommend? How can they get involved?
Yeah, so I would like to see, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that really what could drive a solution is the public getting together and saying we want a solution. I think, and like the organization that I've been going every other week, once every 2 weeks to go give some lunch and support, Food Not Bombs. People can look us up. We're also connected somewhat loosely with other groups doing similar things.
Right.
So that's one good way to do that. So I'd say look up Food Not Bombs, and that's the one entry point I can offer people. Tri-Cities Food Not Bombs, we're on Facebook. We've got a link tree. You can find us there.
Okay,
Yep.
No, sounds good. I'm familiar with Facebook, not so much Linktree, but people can access you through Facebook and maybe consider sending an email off to City Council to let them know as well that they are supportive of more housing and maybe even to the province.
I think so. Yeah, if you live in Port Moody, Port Coquitlam, or Coquitlam, contacting your council and saying we need to provide homes for homeless people. If you don't want homeless people on your streets, if that bothers you, give them a home. Yeah.
Never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves and has a right to a home.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Ben, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today about a really complex and sometimes contentious issue.
Yeah.
So I hope we can talk again in the future.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Nancy Furness, and this is We've Got Issues. We've been speaking with Ben Perry, who has been an advocate for the unhoused community here in Coquitlam and the Tri-Cities.